Welcome to Luxia Selected Authors Podcast. Today, we're unpacking an unmissable and compelling novel that has garnered significant critical acclaim, Tracy Leon's All That's Left Unsaid. This isn't just a gripping murder mystery. It's a profound and poignant exploration of identity, memory, grief, and the intricate struggles within an immigrant community. It's a book that masterfully uses the frame of a detective novel to richly explore the aftermath of a violent killing and an immigrant community's often dimmed pursuit of the Australian dream. The brilliant mind behind All That's Left Unsaid, Tracy Leon, was born and raised in southwestern Sydney, Australia, specifically in the Cabramatta-Fairfield area. Her upbringing in this vibrant yet complex community is deeply woven into the fabric of her novel. Tracy's path to becoming a celebrated author began with a career in journalism. From a young age, around 13, she was drawn to it, inspired by Dolly magazine and the idea of telling stories that could open people's worlds or change their minds. She studied journalism at UTS and honed her skills by interning at various publications, including local newspapers, arts magazines, and even a video game publication. This video game reporting led her to a job at Vox Media, and eventually a dream job at the Los Angeles Times, covering tech. There, she received rigorous editing and learned to write with incredible clarity and conciseness, skills that would undoubtedly serve her fiction writing well. However, around the time Donald Trump was elected, Tracy felt her journalistic work at the LA Times was moving further from her original purpose, telling impactful, relevant human stories. Facing an identity crisis, a former editor suggested she pursue an MFA program to learn fiction writing. Tracy, whose parents were refugees and took enormous risks, felt a profound sense of no excuses and embraced the idea, applying only to fully funded programs. She was accepted by the University of Kansas, where she left her journalism career behind and penned All That's Left Unsaid. Remarkably, her novel secured a publishing deal in her final week of the program. Today, Tracy resides in Brooklyn, New York. She relates to the idea that her parents' unconditional love involves releasing her into worlds that they don't have access to and that they might never understand, knowing that despite their traditional expectations, her choices are okay. Tracy Leon's initial, seemingly modest, goal for All That's Left Unsaid was profound. I want people to know how it feels to grow up Asian in Australia. What she soon realized was that how it feels encompassed much more than just emotions. It was about real-world consequences. What happens when a group of people are routinely dismissed, diminished, and made to feel invisible or inconsequential? This includes being told to take a joke when you are the joke. And the dangerous progression from small acts of dehumanization to justifying violence, as seen with terms like Chinese virus and Kung Flu, brutal street assaults, and even murders. The novel specifically aims to challenge the myth of the model minority. Tracy explains that growing up in Australia, she was told she belonged, would get a fair go, and that multiculturalism was valued. Yet, she eventually realized her citizenship was conditional, dependent on impeccable behavior and gratitude. Any misstep risked being perceived as a nuisance or a threat. This uncomfortable and unnerving place to be served as a starting point for her story, a feeling of conditional belonging that is both frustrating, confusing, painful, and dangerous. Tracy consciously chose the crime and thriller genres as effective vehicles for exploring political and social issues, making complex and heavy topics more accessible and entertaining to readers. She drew inspiration from authors like Jane Harper and Leon Moriarty to create a compelling story that would also shed light on the Asian-Australian experience in the 1990s. She wrote the novel not as an exercise in blame or a sub-story, but as an expression of hope. To measure progress and to showcase the fight and the wins and the losses and the humor and the heart of people like Kai. The setting of the novel is critical to its themes. Cabramatta, Sydney, in 1996. This choice was deliberate and multifaceted. Firstly, 1996 was a period of intense tension in Cabramatta, often referred to as Little Saigon, marked by the height of a heroin epidemic and frequent gang violence. The all-white police force contrasted sharply with the majority of residents being people of color. Tracy herself lived through this period and recalls the heroin epidemic depicted in the story. The opening sentence of the novel underscores the severity, stating that the details of Denny Tran's death were so violent that most people in Cabramatta were too spooked to attend his funeral. Secondly, 1996 was the year Pauline Hanson was elected to the Australian Senate. In her infamous maiden speech, she declared her fear that Australia was being swamped by Asians. Tracy, who was 8 at the time, remembers the confusion, disappointment, and anger this ignited in her, a fire that raged, that she channeled into her protagonist Kai. This incident served as an emblem for a problem Tracy wanted to explore: how actions that diminish people are often accepted or excused. Finally, Cabramatta is where Tracy grew up. She wanted to showcase its complex, messy, and imperfect reality, while still asserting that it was home. The novel beautifully renders an authentic and realistic Cabramatta, portraying it as both downtrodden and impoverished, yet also a place of rich Vietnamese culture, touching childhood moments and the aspirations of families striving for success. Leon highlights the everyday details of this world: high school grounds with serial truants, a class refusing to move on until the teacher could pronounce "fuffle" correctly, and altars in Vietnamese homes with oranges shriveled on their plates. At the core of all that's left unsaid is the story of Qui Tran, a young Vietnamese Australian journalist. She returns home after her younger brother, Denny, optimistic, guileless Denny, is brutally murdered inside a busy Cabramatta restaurant during his high school graduation celebration. Despite several witnesses being present, no one comes forward, leaving the police stumped and Kai determined to uncover the truth. The community's silence is not simple. It's often a shield against past traumas and the desire to protect their families from a hostile world. As Kai investigates, she confronts the deep-seated grief and trauma within her family and the broader Vietnamese refugee community. Tracy powerfully depicts the invisible weight carried by children of refugees and immigrants. This includes the responsibility for their parents, the need to protect them from the ugly side of a country that the children often understand better, and the early realization of their parents' fallibility. Qui herself keeps her hurts from her parents, wanting them to believe their sacrifices paid off and that they found success. As one passage reflects, Qui questioned if she kept every hurt she'd ever experienced from her own parents, because she had to help them believe that their sacrifices had paid off. The novel is celebrated for its richly drawn and diverse cast of minor characters, many of whom briefly narrate the story. This alternating perspective, inspired by authors like Angie Kim, Julia Phillips, and Barbara Kingsolver, allows Tracy to delve deep into individual lives while driving the mystery forward. It underscores that even within the same community, individuals are complex and their motivations distinct. These characters, from a well-intentioned white teacher to a Vietnamese drug dealer who is also a gifted student, or an auntie wedding singer yearning for Saigon, each share their unique reasons for remaining silent about Denny's murder. Adding depth to the community's sense of loss and frustration, Tracy emphasizes that she wanted to show just how different members of the same community can be, A particularly powerful scene involves Kai questioning her brother's best friend, Eddie Ho, about Denny's actions. Eddie confronts Kai, asking why it matters if Denny was up to no good. Would it make her love him less, justify his murder, or change his right to a fair investigation? This scene serves as an explicit confrontation with the myth of the model minority and the feeling of conditional citizenship. Tracy Lean's journey to completing All That's Left Unsaid was one of dedication and a growth mindset. She wasn't a planner, starting without knowing the ending or even if she had enough material for a novel. Her strategy was simple yet effective. Write 300 words a day, every day, allowing the story to unfold incrementally. She likens it to driving on a pitch-dark road, seeing only as far as the headlights shine, and needing to keep driving or writing to see more. Her MFA program provided her with crucial time, space, and supportive feedback to truly experiment and take herself seriously as a writer. Living in the US also offered her the necessary distance to reflect critically on Australia and her experiences in Cabramatta, giving her a fresh perspective on race, multiculturalism, and inequality. She found that this distance allowed her to miss Australia and appreciate what shaped her. When she returns to Sydney, she often feels like a 15-year-old again with her family, noticing changes in the city that remind her of the time she's been away. Tracy is also encouraged by the growing diversity in Australian literature, observing that bookstores, writers' festivals, and literary prizes are now supporting and acknowledging a wider array of literature from historically underrepresented groups, a stark contrast to her high school years. The impact of All That's Left Unsaid has been immense. It's not just a commercial success but a critical darling, earning accolades such as the 2023 Daddit Award for Best Adult Novel, the Australian Indie Book Award, and the Mudd Literary Prize. It was also a winner of the 2023 Readings, New Australian Fiction Prize, and shortlisted or longlisted for numerous other prestigious awards. Judges for the David Awards praised it as a poignant portrait of the immigrant experience, the effects of grief and past trauma, and the complexities of friendship, family, and culture, calling it a masterful novel and a compulsive page-turner. Reviewers echoed this, noting its masterful portrayal of an Australian suburb and its role as a sobering reminder of the failure of the grand Australian dream. Tracy Lean's All That's Left Unsaid is a powerful testament to the transformative power of storytelling, a gripping mystery that unearths uncomfortable truths about racism, conditional belonging, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. It is, as Tracy hoped, a way for readers to, even if it's for the briefest of moments, know how it feels. It's a debut that promises a long and impactful career for its author. We highly recommend you pick up All That's Left Unsaid and experience this powerful narrative for yourselves.